date broke women because what does broke people do? They bring chaos. They bring confusion. They bring anger. They bring jealousy. And they bring entitlement. If you're dating somebody who's broke, how would you ever make more money? How would you ever grow past that ceiling? How would you ever leave your comfort zone? That's why men shouldn't date broke women and women shouldn't date broke men. Because if you're broke, that's a reflection of your character. If you're broke, that's a reflection of your ambition. That's a reflection of your laziness, because we all have the same 24 hours. It's so many ways to get money. It's so many ways to get money. So people should have that standard of not dating broke people, not because you are being money hungry, you want to take their money, but you looking at this person's character. So if you're dating somebody with that type of mindset and with that type of finance to show for it, that says everything.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Pastor Joshua. Welcome to the show, The Psychology of Relationships. This podcast, I should say, is primarily geared towards men. There's just too much going on right now. Too many situations, too much chaos, too much of a disequilibrium is what I like to call it in relationships. And first, we have to start out by saying one thing, ladies and gentlemen. Why do we end up in these situations? There are so many people asking, why am I going through such a difficult process with the relationship I'm currently in right now? I'm not getting results. There's a lot of conflict. My wife or girlfriend is not listening. Why can't I get the woman that I want? Well, this first episode is going to focus on something in one of them categories. And I can say that we'll talk about all these things and look at them in a panoramic view, sort of say. But right now, I want to talk about, the first episode will be about how women expect men to be the sole provider. And you have to remember, gentlemen, I'm coming from a biblical mindset. And sometimes I'll infuse some scripture, sometimes I won't, sometimes I'll just speak right off the cuff, shoot off the hip. There's a scripture, 1 Timothy 5:8, which states, "But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever." And a lot of women will believe and take this verse and use it as a pretext for men to pay for everything. But I want to ask you a question, my viewers, the thousands, the millions of viewers. How is a man supposed to pay for anything right now in this day and age when the average median price for a home is $500,000, when groceries are rising exponentially, when a car payment is $500 to $600 now on average, $50,000 to $60,000 for a new vehicle, when the tariffs are happening right now? We don't not live in a pre-industrial age, an agrarian culture, where almost 100% of the women don't have no jobs. Illiteracy rate is 90 to 95%. A place you can specifically go and fill out an application. Women, there are no salons, okay? There's not spending $10,000 around the hair. There are no Mercedes-Benz, 4Runners, Jaguars, Hondas, Sonatas to drive around. None of these amenities existed. There's no AC, central heating system. You can't take a light rail, a transit. You can't do these things. These things are not even possible. So to try to compare luxuries in the 21st centuries and consider them entitlements when there was nothing like that back in the past, and try to make a comparison, is ridiculous. And you could even hear my dog Stelbell, my Frenchie, bark in the background because she totally agrees with me. She knows I'm only going to provide what I'm going to provide. So there are situations, let's get into this, where men are working 2-3 jobs, giving everything they got, knowing that only 19% of the country make $100,000 a year or more. And this is gross. Think about how much $3,000, $4,000, $2,500 a month mortgage payment is, times that by 12 months. Not counting the car payments, the groceries, the gas, the amenities, the premiums, all the bills that happen. And I want to ask you this, ladies and gentlemen. Think about the budgets that we explode in our household. We explode all these budgets. We spend more, we save less, and we take in less, and we put out more. And then you have this dynamic, this interpersonal conflict between the husband and wife, the boyfriend and the girlfriend, and they look at each other and they argue and say, why did we get in this situation? And I've talked to a lot of men that have realized this and give them advice, and they pull back and they go, wait a minute, honey, we are drowning in debt. And it seems like A lot of the women, they get aggravated, agitated. Some of them even throw a fit and go, well, wait a minute. You're supposed to be the provider. But did you forget you helped me create this debt? Did you forget you want all these needs? Do you forget you want all these luxuries? Did you forget only 19% of the country make over $100,000 a year and the median income is $50,000 or above and a household income is $80,000 a year gross? So how is this a biblical situation at this point? And I simply tell some men, if the woman wants to go back into a biblical situation where they had none of these amenities and sandals on your feet and no AC, and they're walking through the desert, they don't even have clean water to drink. Well, that's a different situation now, isn't it? So let's talk about this a little bit, gentlemen. And I love this. I'm talking directly to you. I've had my fair share of issues, and that misinterpretation is not biblical. And God forbid that a pastor is in there in a church preaching this message and telling men that they should be 100% the sole provider. Well, hold up a minute. What about the standard of the marriage, the institution? What about the woman being submissive to the man? And that is not a chauvinistic thing. And what I mean by that is, what about the marriage order? About the men loving their wife, the women respecting their husband. Men don't look at sex as respect. Men look at admiration, a desire, complimenting the man, going out of their way not to argue or fight or nag. And that goes for both parties, but to let the man know how deeply he is appreciated. And a lot of women have lost that. So I'm going to ask you men listening right now, and there are women listening, what is your intentionality every day when you wake up in your relationship? Do you have a destructive intentionality? Do you wake up and complain every morning? Do you wake up and find a reason not to be grateful? Do you find a reason to appreciate? Do you find a reason to be grateful? Do you look at your blessings, or do you wake up counting your curses? That is going to affect your relationship and your plasticity in your brain. So if you have a destructive mentality, you will have a destructive relationship. If you believe a man should pay for everything and be the sole provider in this day and age, with the transformation of the economy and the expenses and how expensive things are, you have a destructive mentality. And we know that is social engineering. Well, I want to stay home. I don't want to work. You should pay for everything. I'm stressed out. Well, if you have that mentality, then you need to downgrade your standard of living. Hey, we're going to go from 2 cars to 1 car. We're going to go from a bigger house to a smaller house. We're going to sell that investment property, and then we're going to put that extra monies into paying down our debt. When we want something we feel we're entitled to, is it a necessity? And so when these financial situations arise, a lot of times a woman will basically be demeaning to her husband, her boyfriend, her man. Why can't I get this? Why can't I get that? And so there's a sense of aggression that comes out. But that aggression, a lot of the time, is linked directly to childhood trauma. And so that money, the lack of getting something, the self-idolization and the selfishness and putting the undue burden on the man is activated by past experiences, by the subconscious. And I want you to think about something. The mind is a beautiful, beautiful tool that God gave us. And if you think about an iceberg, the majority of everything happening in that iceberg is underneath, and a small portion is on the top. And secondarily, that subconscious, which is underneath the water, which the water is the life of reality, the words we speak, pours out through the mind, through the conscious. So a lot of things we do on autopilot. So as far as this biblical understanding that the man is the provider, well, that means a lot of different things. Protector, spiritual teacher, lover, complimenter. What do you think a man's communicating when he's cleaning the house for you? What do you think a man's communicating when he's making dinner for you? Stell Bell, she knows all about it. What do you think a man is doing when he wakes up and tells you how beautiful you are every day? So I'm going to say something that's not going to be popular. I believe that when you have a God-given spouse and you demean them and you humiliate them, that's a form of blasphemy. You are cursing God's gift. You are cursing your spouse. So I want men to stand strong. I want men to believe in themselves. There are thousands and millions of men right now traumatized to go home, that don't want to step foot in their own homes anymore because they're entering a destructive mentality. And women, I want to say something to you, and I'll have some future episodes on the opposite sex and men, but this is right now predominantly geared towards men. Women, I want to ask you something. What do you think happens to a man when you criticize him every day, when you demean him every day, when you don't admire him every day? And women, I'm talking about the men that are fulfilling their promise in being a husband. But let's say certain men aren't doing that at this time. Do you really think a man is going to change his mentality with a destructive mindset? So men, let me tell you this right now, what's happening in this country. Everybody's being programmed by social media. Everybody's being lied to. Everybody's being taught up here to the subconscious that they're their own God, they're entitled, and they deserve to be rich. Well, the Bible says the love of money, not money, is the root of all evil. So what you're experiencing in relationships is people worshiping mammon, the god of riches. Subconsciously, people don't even know that. Consciously, they don't even talk about it. Everyone is on autopilot. I want. Well, let me ask you a question. If you want something, what do you have to do? You have to know what you want. You have to put effort into it. You have to seek it, initiate it, make it happen, fulfill it, integrate it in your life. So if you want a good marriage, you're going to have to work for it. If you want to respect your husband, you're going to have to work for it. If you want to love your husband, you're going to have to work for it. If you want to make love to your husband, you're going to have to do something. If you want to excite your husband, you have to work for it. What I'm telling you is reality. I'm not telling you a lie. So gentlemen, the first thing you're going to have to do when you're dealing with the destructive mentality, especially past trauma, when you're in a relationship, is have courage. You got to stand up for yourself. That doesn't mean the wrongful way of being involved in conflict with your partner, with your spouse, with your girlfriend. What that means is we have to set a baseline and draw these boundaries and say, I'm going to remain and maintain my dignity and my manhood, and I refuse to have that taken away from me. So what that means is if someone talks to me a certain way, I'm going to say, we need to have a conversation, sit down. You are not allowed to talk to me that way. And explain why. Because you diminish a man, you traumatize a man will shut down. A man doesn't want to open up to dialogue. You've made him feel like he's not a provider. You've showed him no respect, and a man interprets that as love. And that's how a man's brain processes this. So men, a lot of you, you're dealing with a destructive mentality. And why do you think that God took the rib out of man and formed woman? Well, it's a process of submission. It's a process of the institutionalization of marriage. Let me explain that real quick. Somebody might go, Pastor Joshua, you're being chauvinistic. Well, not necessarily, because the burden is on the man to be the protector, to be the leader, to be the teacher. And women and men are equal, but we have different roles. So the first thing when a woman says, you're not my dad, you're not the boss of me, you're not in charge of me, you've automatically caused a disruption. You've broken the chain of unity. You've caused a disconnection. You've already chose to start the day destroying or weakening your relationship with your significant other. So how do you think the rest of the day is going to go? You know, I know men right now, and my wife tells me, I'm just going to use me as an example, I love you. You're my king. And she doesn't say that in a servant type relationship. That's just how she speaks. I admire you. You're a great husband. What can I do for you today? Men, do you want to know, and do you want a signal from your spouse to know there's a destructive mentality going on? It's when you are in public and she doesn't hold your hand, she doesn't build you up, she doesn't tell you kind things, she doesn't cuddle up next to you, she doesn't want to make love to you, and she keeps your relationship silent. You are on a one-way path to divorce or relationship end. And remember, when it comes to the heart, divorce is a consequence of someone already divorcing you. So men, what am I saying? You're going to have to respect yourself if you want your spouse to respect you. And in this culture, in this day and age, how many parents are teaching women, especially the mother, how to respect the husband? Virtually none. But then virtual signaling or this mass indoctrination of media will tell a woman what she deserves, but does not tell a woman what she needs to do. And so women aren't taught, it's caught. They just say, well, I deserve this. You deserve to buy the Bentley with no credit history, with no down payment. and you're not going to demonstrate to the bank that's lending to you, you're not trustworthy, you're not getting the car. Men, before you get married, before you enter a relationship, make sure she has the credit to buy the car, if you know what I mean. When you're in a relationship, start establishing that connection. But we don't do that. I always say we have sex and then we wake up in the morning and go, in this culture, go, hey, what's your name? Nice to meet you. Sex first, questions later. There needs to be an interview process continuously done throughout the relationship, and what I call a heart check. So men, first of all, the first lesson is take courage. Know who you are. How are you going to give something to someone else if you don't know who you are? Have your boundaries. Know that you're worth being respected. Know that all of this stuff with the destructive mentality of a person you're with is not in your head. Think about a chaotic storm. You're going to have to call the bulldozers, the forklifts, the assets in to clean up the mess and start rebuilding. Many of you are in a relationship tornado that's destroying your life, and you're not using your assets to call in the church, good friends that actually have wisdom. We're always at war. Wisdom applied rigorously. Remember that. The church body, friends, assets, wisdom from family members. Educate yourself with books. So you have to remember something. A lot of times you're dealing with a destructive mindset. And I want to mention this too. A lot of people in relationships, men, a lot of times you're in a relationship, a woman needs therapeutic intervention. She needs counseling. And one of the key things that you know something is wrong is when a woman looks right at you and says, you're supposed to do 100% of everything, and you're supposed to support me. What if your kids spoke to you like that? What if they talked to you like that? Estelle Bell, she's agreeing with me right now. What would you actually do? You wouldn't even tolerate that behavior from your children, but then we're going to tolerate that from our spouse? We're going to accept that in our hearts, accept that in our minds? Line a spouse up with another spouse, a male and a female, and you will automatically know the design by them two individuals and how God made them and what type of authoritative structure is a mandate. Why? Because a man's strong, big, has muscles. A woman is beautiful, feminine. Her hair is her glory. And you can just look, perceive, understand, take in. That's the reality. In a sense, I call that outer dimensions, outer dimensional. It's a spirit realm telling us, ministering to us. So men, first of all, what you need to do, step one, is know who you are. How are you going to shape your character? How are you going to be the man that you need to be? And infuse that, indoctrinate, pray, and build upon them characteristics. And when you start to do that, if nothing changes, you got what I like to call a rebellious woman, probably full of the spirit of Jezebel. And you're really not going to get results. But then we have many other problems that we'll talk about in the next episode and what these problems look like and how you have to handle them. Because self-idolization and basically putting your husband down and having that mentality is a form of narcissism. And the narcissist is always dramatic, always looking for a play to jump into, always looking to be part of the movie, always looking to be grandiose. In the DSM-5, you do have narcissism, but I like to call it a subtle, subconscious, narcissistic reality engineered by human society. And what that means is if you're watching things every single day, you're being trained. And so if you allow certain propaganda to inundate you, you will become that person. And a lot of people are human beings that they don't even know that they're aware of, boasting about self-righteousness, how I deserve everything, and you need to pay for everything, and you are the man, and I'm entitled, and you're a failure, and I should get to stay home, and I need to take care of the kids, when $100,000 a year don't even go far anymore. Men, lesson one, learn your boundaries. Learn who you are. Sit down today and analyze your relationship. If you're a good man, does your woman have a destructive mentality? That is step one. Boundaries, know who you are, realization. They might sound like 3 steps, but that is the crux to the beginning of asking yourself the question, how did I get myself into this mess? Until next time, this is Pastor Joshua. God bless you and have a good day.